Hey everybody, happy Friday. Thanks for hanging out for some more editorial illustration chit-chat and demos and all that good stuff. Here in the Illustration Masterclass, this is part 3 of this little series that I'm doing. As I mentioned, beginning of the series, I spent a good many years doing editorial illustration. It was mostly my bread and butter for at least a decade of my career. And I thought it'd be fun to do a little exploration of this form for everybody out there. In episode 1, which you can rewatch, of course, it's archived on Behance and YouTube. We talked about just what editorial art is and the many ways that it can help artists to get their foot in the door with other kinds of illustration work, book art and advertising and whatnot. And we decided to give ourselves a mock assignment where, if you don't mind, I'm just going to pop over here to my canvas, where we're going to look at an assignment where we ask ourselves, do carrots really promote healthy vision? Now, this is the kind of article you might find in a health magazine or whatever. And then we decided to come up with these 3 ideas, these 3 sketches here. And the first one that I have circled is the one that I am now going to be painting. And I'm about 75% of the way finished with it, maybe more, from part 2 of the series. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish that today and then move on to the second one here, this illustration in the middle. And I'm going to do it in a completely different style, because one of the beautiful things about editorial art is how many different kinds of styles you can work in, just depending on whatever suits the mood of the story. And in this case, something about carrots promoting healthy vision, you could really just go all kinds of different directions, which is why all 3 sketches are very different from one another. And I wanted to just explore style with these. And throughout that, of course, I will be talking about my favorite thing, brushes, and showing you brush technique, how I select brushes to get certain effects, and so on. Okay? Alrighty, so this is where we left off on this painting of our carrot friend here with the glasses. And I'm just going to finish that out. We have a little sketch here on top, which I'll just make a little brighter so you can see what that looks like. As you can see, we have to finish out the little suit and tie and shirt. And I'll probably do some more work on the background to bring it to life a bit more. Maybe overlay a paper texture or something like that as a final step, or a few other little nice textures just for fun. Okay? For funsies. Let's say hi to some folks in the chat. Hello, Cody and Joe Chirma and Christelle. And Andreas, nice to see you. And Stephen, Seth, and Christine. Hope you're all doing well. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to head over to behance.net. Sign up for a free account if you don't already have one. You can then join the chat watching on the Adobe Live channel on Behance. And I'll be able to see your questions, and I can answer anything that is on your mind. Okay? Well, with that said, why don't we just carry on now with this illustration and see how we go. Most of what I'm painting, as you can see here, is on one layer, right? With the exception of the glasses and a few little odds and ends there. It's mostly just one layer. I do this a lot if I'm going to work in a more painterly rendered style. I typically just like to paint on one layer, since that's kind of what I would do, or, excuse me, that's exactly what I would do if I were working on an illustration board or on canvas or on paper. So why not just work that way digitally? I know there's no safety net with that process, but I don't care. When we were doing this illustration before, we were using the gouache brushes. The gouache brushes you can download right here in the top right corner of your brushes panel. Just navigate to Get More Brushes. That'll take you out to that page where you sign in with your Adobe ID, and you can download any of the brush sets that contain somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,800 brushes for you to play with. All of them are fun. All of them are different. So one of the perks of having a subscription to Photoshop or Fresco. Now, let's carry on. We're going to paint that suit, and I'm going to go ahead with that Gouache G edge brush. I'm going to sample this color here, and I'm just starting it on the same layer. Just sketch out that shape that I want here for this carrot fellow's broad shoulders. There we go. Looks good. Now, I'll periodically check the chat as I'm going here and look for your questions and comments. Remember, that I will do my best to answer any questions, but if I can't answer them, of course, somebody in the chat probably can. Or you can follow up with me on Twitter later, and we can get to the bottom of whatever it is that you got a question about. Okay. You'll notice here that I'm painting. I'm moving the brush in the direction of the sort of rhythm of the shoulder here and of the coat. Why not just select it and fill it? Well, you could, but that's not the style I'm really working with right now, and therefore that's not how I want to do it. So, you know, when I'm doing this kind of thing, when I'm doing something more painted, well, I like to actually go through the motions of painting in the shapes, right? It just feels good. For me. And it doesn't take that long. You know, it's not like a big chore or anything like that, okay? At least I don't think it is. And of course, it depends on the brush you're using. You know, my brush is pretty decent size here right now. Working at 90 pixels with this brush. Our document is 6 inches square, 300 dpi. So, you know, not too bad. All right, notice how I'm curving the collar around, making sure that it is, let's get this out this way, following the contour of the carrot. Okay, this is a round object, right? It's important to do that. I'm going to let a little bit of that blue show through here and there. You can see the brush strokes right through. I'm happy with that. I like the way that looks, and that's what I'm going to do. It also gives it more of that natural media sort of look, right? Oops. And that's important to me because I don't want this to look too clean, too perfect, right? I like there to be a few little imperfections and all that good stuff. All right, I like this color here. I want to see what happens if I just bring that in there. Kind of introducing that background color into our shirt here. I think that's kind of nice. And as I did before with some of the blending and whatnot up here in the collar of the, pardon me, in the carrot, in the collar. I'm painting a collar, so I'm thinking about collars. I will be using a different brush just for those softer bits there, okay? And I'm gonna take this color, I'm gonna knock it down just a hair there, get a little darker so that what we have happening is more sort of a feeling of there being the top of the light is kind of hitting that top of the collar there as it's facing up, right? Get a little darker here in towards the edge and a little brighter this way. And for blending, we're going to go with that same soft gouache brush. So let's find that here. There's a Gouache G soft right there, but I like this wash brush. We were making good use of that last time. So I'm going to do that again. A little darker right there. And a little darker right there, just for some contrast. And then blend gently with this brush. So this brush will build up more slowly with the color, and it allows me just to not have such a sharp appearance to the transitions from one value to another, one color to another, and so on. And the same goes here. So as I come under here, just as that shadow gets further away from the source of the cast shadow, which is that collar there, just soften that up a little bit using this color right here. I'm just using the eyedropper to select that color and just kind of painting into that area with a few strokes like this. You can see, and the more pressure I use, the more paint I put down. Simple as that, folks. Simple as that. Okay, now of course we had that tie And my original thought was that I would just keep things simple, have the orange be the brightest color up there, and I want to keep it that way. And so I'm just going to go ahead and sample the same color here, and go back to that nice Gouache G edge brush and put that collar in. Pardon me, that tie there, right there. You know, I think I mentioned this on a Masterclass about a month ago, but I've been forbidden to drink coffee. No coffee for me. Doctor's orders. And I've noticed that when I don't drink coffee, not quite so sharp with the talkie-talkie. I can't remember all the words I want to say. Things come out jumbled. Never realized how dependent I was on coffee for just speaking comprehensively. Oh my gosh. Isn't that scary? You never know, right? Don't know what you got till it's gone, and I love coffee, and I'm sad that I'm not drinking it. But maybe someday again, if the world is fair, I'll have coffee. But until then, well, you know, really nothing replaces it, does it? Coffee's kind of one of those things you just cannot replace. But I have found a lovely drink that I'm enjoying called Rasa. Anybody else out there is forbidden from drinking coffee, just know Rasa's out there. Rasa. I like it. A little sheen on that tie, right? We're just adding a little sheen. Look at that. See how fancy that is? Woo. Actually, I don't like that line. Let's come closer to the... There we go. That's better. Fancy, 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 fancy. Okay. Go a little lighter on this. And we're just going to bring that in like that. And then come out this way. And there we go. It's perfectly fine to draw on your painting. Doesn't make sense that this will be lighter, but I don't care. I'm just drawing a detail, you know? You can do that. Yeah, we don't want to go, you know, too crazy with what's happening here. We're not trying to make this the center of attention. The center of attention is here. We got this nice bright orange spot. Now you'll say, oh, Kyle, you're missing something very important. I say, yes, don't worry, I noticed that. And that is the shadow being cast onto the carrot by the glasses. And, you know, there's a couple ways to do this. Of course, I could select a color, paint it onto the carrot. But another thing I could do is use a blending mode. And I'm kind of tempted to try that, even though I did not do that with my shadows here on the carrot that are being cast by our leaves at the top. You know, and I worked out that color kind of nicely there. Kind of like the way that looked. So why don't we just try painting them first, see how they go. And if we're not digging that, then we can always just try something else. So a little darker towards the middle. Like that. And you're like, hey, that's lighter. And I say, never you mind, friends, because we are going to use Multiply. Our good friend Multiply is always there. Always there, helping out. Da-da-dee-doo-doo-doo, Multiply. Knock that back, 50%. I want to cool that down, so I'll lock my layer transparency. Go over to hue and cool it down. Isn't that a song? Cool it down, or cool it down from the 80s. You're gonna lose control. Be-do-be-do-be-do. Kyle's old. He's singing really old songs. Alright, now let's unlock layer transparency. And we will duplicate that layer, bring it up to the top, and we'll set it to normal. Oops, wrong layer. This is the one I want. Duplicate it, bring it to the top, set it to normal, put it on 100%, grab that color so I know what I'm doing. And I'm going to do a bit more painting. Too far away from our source. There we go. Right there. And you'll remember that nice softer gouache brush, right? Well, I'm going to employ that here in just a mo. And there it is, the wash. I'm just sizing it down, so it's the size I want, and just softening the bottom of the shadow. Softening the bottom of the shadow. Like so, like so. Soften the transitions. Don't forget, you can also use the brush as an eraser. You simply select the clear mode for that brush, clear, which you can do with a key command, the tilde key. It's that thing that looks like a little squiggly up in the top left corner of your keyboard if you're working with an American keyboard. Not sure where it's located on other international keyboards, so please just hunt it down. I'm sorry, I don't know. But I'm gonna go ahead and say clear. And just clear up some of this. I'm just gently painting over it. It's not quite so harsh there. Soften in that. Soften this edge right here on the inside. And on the inside there. Okay, now there's a nice little shadow. And I will next play with the opacity. So we have it set to multiply. Let's put it on 90. Just do a bit more softening so I can see how things look. There we go. And we'll bump it down. I'm going to take it back to normal mode and just paint in closer there to the edge. Okay, erase what I don't need there and there. Okay, now let's put it down to 80%. That gives the glasses a bit of space from the so-called face of the carrot. Now let's give some attention to this background, okay? Add a new layer. All right. First things first, I feel like I need just a bit more punch out here in the corner and out here. So what I want is for this area to pop a bit more. So just even a tiny bit more contrast by lightening this area around the subject and then going a little darker out here in the corners. We use a variety of brushes to create that background, and there's a lot of options here. What I'm looking for is something that will give me that streaky look. So let's see, we have the dry bristles. That might be worth trying. Kind of want to try this Blair bristle. See how that fares in this exercise. So I'm going to grab this color here. I'm going to go down here a little darker. I'm going to cool it off just a hair, a little bluer. And I'm going to follow along contours here. See how that's feeling. So that's pretty decent. Kind of does an okay job, I think. Come in from this other side, do more of the same. And all this does as well is, see, this is creating like a rhythm kind of for you. A nice rhythm to the background. It helps to just draw the eye in a pleasing way to where you want it to go. Even with a tiny little drawing like this, something like a little spot illustration, whatever this is, you can think about this stuff. You know, give it some attention. Don't be lazy. Don't let this stuff go. What can you do to just make it a little bit better, right? Cool it off a hair more. Come in here, get a little more saturation in there. And let's try the Gouache G texture brush and make that a little bigger. Let's see what that does. I'm just gonna come in here. See how that's feeling. Out here in the corner. I'm going to take that brush and I'm going to change the shape dynamics to go for direction and rotate that so it's a nice fat brush like that. Let's see how that plays. I think that'll be better for what I'm trying to accomplish here. So what I did, I'm basically telling Photoshop, hey, I want this brush not to respond to the tilt of the stylus so much, just to respond to the direction in which it is moving, and to fix that stamp, that brush stamp, to rotate accordingly, to rotate as the brush moves in that direction. What else do we have here? We got that nice G flat dry. I think that one is similar. And I'm going to set that same way. I'm going to take my shape dynamics, set it to direction, okay? And let's see how we, oh yeah, I like the feel of that one. That feels good. Feels really good. That's the one. That's the one. Come back here, grab a bit more of this, soften that. Oh, yep. I'm liking the way this one feels. That's nice. That's nice. It's got a bit more flow, a little higher flow value. Still getting some nice texture out of it. That's nice. But yeah, kind of hit on the right one here. Okay, now we're gonna go a little lighter and just a hair warmer. And this is where we make our subject pop. So see what I'm gonna do here? I'm just gonna come in this way, right around the carrot. Just gonna add a bit of, whoops, a bit more contrast there. So now we're getting that what I talked about a moment ago, which was just to get it to be a little brighter around the carrot. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, I'll pause for a moment, see if I have any questions about what I'm up to. Let's see. Like how he pulled in the blue-green bounce on the right side. Thanks. A lot of people struggle with integration. Using ambient colors right way to get elements to integrate. Yeah, that's the trick right there, Seth. Let's see. Any questions? Any questions about it? Any tips on doing smooth shading digitally? I'm trying to use your term. Yeah, of course. Smooth shading. Well, first of all, using light pressure with brushes that respond to pressure for opacity, as well as using the smudge tool carefully. Softer edge brushes, for sure, though, are going to be your friend in that department. You don't want something with such a harsh, hard edge, and also something that builds up too fast. Like here, if you look, I can just reduce the flow for this brush, and by doing so, I'm putting down less paint with every stroke, which allows me to more carefully, slowly build up that color, yeah? that's what that's doing. So you can adjust things like the flow. You can work with softer brushes, like that wash brush we were using a moment ago, right? The wash brush. That is a softer brush, so definitely not as... See that? I'm softening everything down here. Can you see that? Softening it, softening it, softening it. Just softer. All right, got too much action here, too much going on. I just want to soften that up. So I'm just gonna paint like that. Very responsive. Soft, soft, soft. Keep sampling color nearby. Right, I'm holding down the Option key. On a PC, you would hold down the Alt key to temporarily call up your eyedropper tool. If you're in Fresco, you just hold your finger down for a moment in the spot where you want to grab that color. Okie dokie. Now, check this out. Why don't we just do something fun here? We're going to do one quick thing. Pop into the old Mega Pack and the old paint box, and we're going to come down to, let's see, where did I put it? Watercolor fill. Is this the one? I believe it is the one. Let me see. It's been a while since I've played with this brush. Yeah, I think that's the one. There's a variation on this, but don't believe it's in the Mega Pack. It's called Color Fill. Yeah, so I'm gonna take this brush, make it like bigger than it normally is, and I'm gonna try some fun stuff here. Actually, I'm gonna come up here. We're gonna use like a pink kind of a color, and I'm just gonna tone my canvas here with this color, this pink sort of color here at the top, like that. Go a little brighter here in the corners, at the very tippy top. Okay, and set that mode to overlay. Woohoo! Look at that. See, it's just kind of like, oh, hey, something interesting happened there. I like that. I like that. I come back down here and grab that sort of an orangey color, and then just sort of punch up with the orange color in this direction, punching up towards that other section there. And isn't that just an interesting little shift? Huh? What do you think about that? Interesting way to just shift the color, right? Adds a bit more interest. Now, of course, there are many other things I could do with this, right? But we do not want to spend all day on this because we have another illustration to get started on. So it is time for me to just grab any old inking brush. Let's see. Just want something like a felt tip, so I'll go to Fontania. Where are my Fontanias? Fontania. Come on down here. And sign it. And that, I would just send it off to the client and say, hey, what do you think? Here's the final. And they'd say, wow, we like it so much, we're going to double the price. And I say, great, thanks. And we're done. And that's how it always works, every single time. Okay, now, of course, we're working in the same format, right? So just group all these layers. And we'll say save as, and we'll change this one to carrot number 2 because we're going to now work on this sketch right here. This is going to be the next one to work on. All right. We'll come back here and we'll just paste that in there. Free transform, Command T, pull it on up this way. You say, okay, let's move it down. I'm feeling like compositionally, I just want to see a bit more sky. Feels a little better to me. Okay. So that'll be our little sketch to work from for this next little exercise. So any questions about how we went? Hey, Lau McGann. You came in late. Tell me which brush pack you're working from. For the painted carrot that we just did right here, this is with the gouache brushes. The gouache brushes for this character right here. By the way, I forgot to say this, but this is always another thing you can do. It's kind of fun. Is try and see like what Photoshop thinks your image should look like. Sometimes it's kind of fun. You just go to Image Adjustments, Auto Tone, and Auto Color. I like to try that sometimes and see, ooh, look at that. Totally different look. It's got more contrast, right? I like that. That's really nice. See what it did? It kind of tinted everything a lot cooler. That could be a nice look. Could also do auto, whoops, we just did auto tone. Auto color, right? That's also really nice. Just kind of punched things up in a good way. So, you know, see what Photoshop thinks will look good. And oftentimes you'll get a pretty nifty result. And since I, you know, always am totally honest about being scared of color and how to use color, you know, I rely on these little tricks and see what they do. Nice to see what you can get away with, right? Okay, now for this one, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we basically just used like halftones and sort of patterns and painted in shapes, painting inside of the silhouettes, but with really muted colors or basically no color at all, except for this bright orange carrot. And did it in a way where it was very flat and graphic kind of approach. I thought that'd be kind of cool. Not entirely sure how that'll look, so I just want to sort of mess around until we get there. I also haven't decided about whether I'm going to draw line art for this, but I kind of feel like a unified line, like a line with no line width variation, just one sort of width all the way throughout, kind of mechanical, just to contain the shapes, along with some spot fills of black might be kind of a cool way to do it. So I'm going to try that, and if it doesn't work out, then I'll just stick with the shape-based idea. This is the great thing is, you know, you can just try all kinds of things, see what happens. See how that Fontania looks. Yeah, I kind of like that. Might just use that. So yeah, here goes nothing. So I'm going to concentrate because drawing lines, I need to be thinking. I'm going to turn up the smoothing on this so that when I draw, I feel like I've got a little bit more control. So I'm going to really keep my lines kind of the same width throughout, and also I'm going to try and use really minimal approach. I'm not really feeling that. Let's see. I might have to go for a pen that really just limits the width that I can produce. Right now I'm trying to control that just with the pen pressure, but let's see how we go. I'm also going to try and simplify anatomy, like in a really simple way. Stuff like that, for example. I don't know if that's going to work in the end. We're just going to have to see where this goes. Sometimes, you know, switching gears like this right after doing one thing, like I was in rendering mode, thinking render, render, render. Now all of a sudden I'm in the opposite of rendering mode. Actually, you know what I want to do? I kind of want to have sort of a turtleneck deal going on here. Anybody ever hear Dana Carvey's John Travolta impression? I was just reminded of that as I said here, because he said here. Like, what's going on here? I don't know what this guy's name is over here. I can just hear everybody dropping off, going elsewhere for their drawing entertainment today. Hopefully I'll win you back someday. Yeah, I think this could work. Let's just see where it goes, okay? Now for the I was interested in like these poofy pans just to make things interesting. So let's see if I can like really make those interesting as shapes. And we could make them like sort of high-waisted. That'd be kind of cool. And then I'm just gonna fill this. See how that goes. I wonder like if I'm gonna be using tone to separate out, or do I do this to show? See, now I'm wondering like how much line work do I want to use at all? It's tricky to decide these things sometimes. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. Whoops. There we go. That's going to be that, and that's good. Let's go straighter there. And the other arm's gonna come out and over. So I'm gonna make that a bit more. Oh, I've forgotten. So those sleeves are shorter. Can't keep track of my own wardrobe ideas. Dot, 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 dot. I guess the carrot will be on the other side. This eye will be sort of closed. And carrot will be coming out on the other side. Actually, let's do that. Wait, what am I doing? Sales always confuse me. So you have the, there. We could just make that balloon out that way. And we could have this be like, to make it more interesting, like split that. I don't know enough about sailboats and stuff. I should just use reference and look. But you can also fake your way through it if the shapes look nice. And that's kind of been my approach to almost everything for over the years. It's like, do the shapes look nice? Okay. That'll do. Maybe do as I say, not as I do. I'm not trying to teach you all bad habits. I'm just saying this is kind of like how I figure things out. Okay, now we want, what kind of activity do we want down here? Maybe just a nice even sort of handling of it, or it could be more ripples, could be more interesting graphically speaking. And as a pattern, that could be kind of nice. We just kind of go back and forth and we just do that. Nice to throw, like I said, you know, thinking about using pattern and stuff in here to make it interesting. So that could be nice right there. All right, pause for a moment, see if you have any questions. Blah, 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 blah. When do you choose to use fresco to paint? When do you use PS? Jane asking that question. I use fresco more than I use Photoshop these days, just because I love sitting in a comfortable chair and drawing. And I can do 90% of what I need to do as an artist, drawing and painting in fresco, so I just do it there. And then when I need to get away from what's going on in the house and get into my studio, I will come in here into my nice quiet space, away from everybody, and I will draw on the big fat Cintiq. And it's nice to go back and forth. Sometimes I like to draw my whole arm, and I like that space that I get with this. Other times I love to just play around in fresco and feel sort of liberated by the size and the experimentation I can do with the wet media. You know, I love the watercolors and the oils, and I love using the multicolor eyedropper for painting, which is so fun. So, and other times I also like to have a automatic time-lapse recording of what I'm doing, and that's another thing fresco is good for. So yeah, I use them both, but I use fresco more these days. Plus I'm involved in helping that team with odds and ends with regards to building the app itself, you know, and features and whatnot. So, but I don't know. I love both. I use both. I use fresco more these days. I got in the habit of doing that because I was traveling a lot before the pandemic. So I was always drawing on the plane, drawing in airports. I actually drew an entire book, a 72-page book in fresco with vector brushes a year and a half, 2 years ago. And if you want to pick it up, it's called Trace. And it's a meditative drawing book where you just can trace over the drawings that are already in the book. They're printed very, very faintly on the page, and they're sort of stream of consciousness drawings. And check it out. It's by Baron Fig, the publisher. And the book is called Trace. All done in fresco. Other questions? Let's see. Sam says, I feel like I would never complete a digital painting due to the limitless editing possibilities. Yeah, I understand what you mean, Sam. Like, once I kind of make a decision, I try and stick with it and see where it goes. But yeah, I get you. Kyle, you should see the inside of the other side of the boat. Oh, yeah. I hear what you mean, Christine, but this is a very flat graphic sort of representation of everything. I'm not trying to make this look like it has a lot of dimension or anything like that. Normally, yes, totally feel you on that. Check out the one, I don't know if you just joined, but we did a drawing previously that was more rendered and had form to it and took those kinds of things into consideration. With this illustration, I'm mainly going to be concerned with shape and some cool pattern and graphic stuff, and keep it really flat and see where that goes. Well, okie dokie, we're carrying on then. We've got about 10 more minutes here, and I can get a lot done in 10 minutes. You'd be surprised. Make a new layer, because I think for the clouds, I might be just filling them with... Yeah, let's see. Try something. Let me try something here. And then we're going to take our other lasso tool. We're just going to carve right through there and erase away that. All right. Don't worry, that's not going to stay black like a storm cloud. It's not what it's going to be. I promise, 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 promise. But I will make a different color now just for clarity so you can see what I'm doing. Because my plan here is I'm going to be painting into those shapes. I'll be locking layer transparency when I'm ready to paint those. Okay. To toggle, you know, your tools, to cycle through the tool that you're using. So like lasso tool has a regular lasso tool, it has a polygonal or polygonal, however you say it, lasso tool. You just hold down shift and then you hit the key for that tool. So like L is the lasso tool, and I wanted to cycle through to get from my polygonal or polygonal lasso tool to the regular lasso tool. So I just hold down shift and I hit L, and it's going to toggle me through my lasso tools. Same goes for any tool in Photoshop. So like you're using the rectangular marquee tool, just hit shift and then hit M, and you can go through the elliptical and the rectangular. So just a quick little tip for you there. Save time. I'm a huge fan of key commands, so the more key commands I know, the faster I can get stuff done. Go back to my polygonal, hold down the shift key for precision, so I'm making a perfectly horizontal line. Fill that in. Whoops, I'm on the wrong layer. There we go. Fill that in. And we're going to just make our way down through here, and that goes away. At this point, I mean, I don't really need the sketch even visible. I know where the carrot's going to be, so, you know, whatever. It's also nice to just occasionally turn off your sketch, look at how things are looking, see how clean they are, yada, yada, yada. And so far, I think this is going to be fine. This is working out pretty well. And you get that carrot in there. I'm thinking about placing another cloud up here. So let's see what happens with that. I'm just gonna do that, and I'm probably gonna take that little bottom area there out of the equation. Whoops. There we go. And let's see then about that carrot. So carrot, probably going to need to outline that. Being that it's got straight lines, I may choose to construct that with the selection tools and with the line tool. See what happens if I do that. And rotate my canvas. Hold down the R key if you want to do that. You can hold down the shift key to make it precise. Precise rotation station, okay. And let's go to our line tool. And I'm guessing this is like 7 pixels. Let's see. It's pretty close, yeah. I think that should be good. Okay, that's pretty good. Duplicate it and flip it horizontally. Whoops. Hang on. I believe it was taller than the fingers, right? Yeah. Take both of those and scoot them up a notch. Feels pretty good. I'm gonna take that other one and just gonna move it down a hair. Speaking of the marquee tool, using my elliptical marquee, making a perfect circle here. Slide that back. Let's try that again here. I'm gonna come from the center, bloop, and out to about there. And we'll give that a stroke of 6 pixels. And we'll just erase away what we don't need. Let's merge all these together. Command E is how you do that, folks. Command E. Rotate back. Okay. Is it weird to have the leaves at the top? That's the big question. Can't answer it until I'm further along in the drawing. For now, I'm gonna say whatever, leave them in. And we'll just have to see how that feels later, okay? Couple more minutes. But I think that's so far fine. And it's kind of doing what I want it to do. Probably do something simple like have a few shapes breaking into the cloud just to add some interest there. Like that. And one more thing. I think I want to do this. I haven't yet decided. Let's see what happens if I do this. Nope. Yes. Okay. I want to make sure that we have the boat kind of more like through the water as opposed to sitting on top of it. I mean, I know this, we're not trying to create a lot of depth here, as I said before, but that just seems kind of like an important call to me. Okay, so the next phase of this drawing is going to be doing things like this. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a selection of the clouds here. Okay, and then we come in and we grab a brush for painting. Let me see if I can find, is it summer 2018? Inkblock, here we go, cool. And we do something like this. Oops, that's the wrong Inkblock. Which Inkblock is that? Here we go, Inkblock overlay is what I'm looking for. So just make some random brush strokes in there. Like that. Grab something like the crunch brush, grab some white, come through and just do this. Okay, and what I'm doing here is now when I go ahead and deselect, okay, see, this is what I'm talking about, like adding cool patterns and shapes using texture to round out what we do for filling in all the values, and then we add just the orange for the carrot. Hope that makes sense. So I'll do that next week. We'll take a look. We'll see how it goes. Hope you'll stick around and check that out for me. Be nice to do that together. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you all enjoyed this. And remember to have a great weekend. Take care of each other and take care of yourselves. And remember to be kind, okay? And for now, I'm going to say see you later and ciao for now.